Now another DWRG review, Will Berridge's The Nice Man in the Nasty Universe, published 12/7/03. My latest viewing of the Caves of Androzani begged one burning question: precisely what sex is the lift maintenance engineer? Because as we all know, one of those sad little facts us fans find so inexplicably scintillating is that in this story, all the males die, including the Doctor who regenerates, and all the representatives of the fairer sex live to whinge another day, supposedly. Well, in a society where the only female role seems to be as the secretary, women aren't employed as soldiers, gun runners, and presidents, it's fair guess that the lift maintenance service would hold similarly prejudiced views. But what about the underling Morgus sends to see to events at the North Core copper mine? Do we ever see him perish? No, the statistic is false. Actually, false as it is, it's only just so, and it's actually very telling regarding the story. Like, and slightly less obviously than Zeta Major, is trying to make an incredibly feminist point about the degeneration of male-dominated cultures. Bob Holmes' story brings us face to face with corruption on every level. In one scene, Shara's Jack is ranting about the basest scum and petty criminals who are invariably paranoid, forming the lower echelons of Androzanian society. In the next scene, or was it the scene before, they were definitely one after the other, we see the corrupt chairman of the serious conglomerate murdering the president by pushing him down an empty lift shaft. And in the final episode, these two parties merge together as Morgus desperately throws his lot in with Stotts, who tells him, despite his descent from the first colonists, "You're just like me, a man with a gun." So just like Zeta Major, the non-regular cast are a varied collection of individuals linked by the one common characteristic, which is their shared bastardness. Never has one story witnessed so many types of bastard. Sharak Jack, the insane, tortured, sympathetic bastard, driven only by his hatred of Morgus and lust for Perry. Morgus, the callous, conniving, unsympathetic bastard who would halve a minute's silence to keep the production rate at his factories efficient. Salatine, the sly, heartless bastard who finds the imminent death of two innocents amusing because it will prevent one of his fellow bastard having company and leave him tragic and lonely. Stotts, the vicious, hard-beaten, treacherous bastard who we see screaming, "Bite, you slut, bite," as he tries to make Krelper take the suicide pill, and later gunning down the same comrade, almost as an afterthought because he doesn't want to participate in hunting down the Spectrox refinery. The president, too, is very much a bastard in the way we interpret all politicians as bastards, and Bob Holmes writes the character some majestically cynical lines. His calculating remark, "Yes, I suppose we could make that seem morally justifiable," is just one of many little gems in the exchange between the president and Morgus. There's one superbly scripted moment where the president appears to be showing compassion for the death of the Doctor and Perry by the red cloth, stating, "It's disgraceful," but then goes on to explain, "In my day, we'd have had filthy little swine like that shot in the back." All the added details, such as a subplot about Morgus' elimination of an overproductive copper mine, just add to the character of the story. In fact, Caves could claim to be just about the most genuinely gritty DW story there is, an impression created not only by the only vaguely foul word used in the series' entire history, but the constant other moments of random and unexpected violence that punctuate the story. The president is smiling warmly and confidently as he thanks Morgus for ensuring his safety, and a second later he has been shoved down a lift shaft to his death by his apparent benefactor. The Doctor is standing by watching Stotts and Jack debate their transaction, perhaps relieved his flippant mark a minute ago has for once gone unnoticed, when Jack recalls a mental note and whacks him in the face. Salatine is coolly leading his troops onwards past what he thinks is an inactive android, and 1 minute later he's been shot down by the same machine. Krelper is relaxing in the ship after the apparently amicable departure of Stotts, happily anticipating the riches his ill-gained 2 kilos of Spectrox will obtain for him, when Stotts walks straight back in and shoots him down. Stotts himself, in the final shootout, smugly shoots Shara's Jack in the rear, only for his android to appear out of nowhere and plug him full of bullets a moment later. The hostile atmosphere is further enhanced by a typically tingly DW score and the misty darkness of sets used for the eponymous caves. And cast into this vicious, hostile, untrusting world is just about the most polite, affable, genial altruist in the whole fictional universe, Peter Davison's Doctor. His interaction with this story's plethora of bastards is sublime. His subtle undermining of the Chellac's pompous insistence that he be called Sir is hilarious, and as soon as he is brought before Morgus, he courteously inquires, "And how ought I address you?" The Doctor's charismatic streak of wit is universally poorly received by all the bastard characters, one marvellous Shara's Jack response being, "Your sense of humour will be the death of you, Doctor, probably quite soon." Of course, even the fifth Doctor's apparently indomitable temperament deteriorates eventually, as in episode 3, taken captive and dying from Spectrox toxemia He expresses his disgust at what he has experienced. He tells Morgus, "I was just passing through when I happened to get caught up in your pathetic little local war." The cliffhanger of the same episode is a triumph for the sheer good nature of the same character, who amidst all the greedy, paranoid, murderous psychotics lets his courage and altruism shine through. Despite being on death's door, he determinedly seizes control of Stotts' shuttlecraft and pilots it back to Androzani Minor, explaining, "I owe it to my friend because I got her into this." It is true, however, that he got her into it due to one of the Doctor's, or late, or is it 9 now, more traditional traits, most rigorously explored in this story, his insatiable curiosity. He just can't help himself. About 3 minutes after admitting, "Curiosity has always been my downfall," confessing his error in investigating the caves in the first place, and stumbling upon the Spectrox nest, which had caused his eventual death, he's out of the game. Morgus said Spectrox was the most valuable substance in the universe. He ponders, "I wonder what it could be." This story features one of the most detailed character portrayals of any of the Doctors, and Davison's performance is utterly outstanding. So there you have it. Who haven't I mentioned? Shellac, the Magma Beast. Well, I had to get round to the bad points at some stage, didn't I? I simply can't understand why the former wasn't up to the same level as the other characters in the story. I mean, he's still a bastard, of course, a crass, unthinking military bastard, but like all military characters, he's made unnecessarily stupid. You have to wince a little as he reacts with gobsmacked astonishment as Saladin reveals how Jack has deceived him another time. He also gets one horrible line as the camera focuses in on his face and he remarks of Jack in a hackneyed fashion, and when he's captured, "I love that evil renegade dragged in chains through every street on every city on Major." Ouch. And for a veteran soldier, isn't he a bit wimpy when Jack's mask comes off in the last episode? I'm an easily frightened 18-year-old, and a man with a greeny, yellow face doesn't make me scream. And the Magma Beast? Well, I'd really like to forget about it, but the production team didn't. They revolved episode 2's cliffhanger around it. Silly them. 2 tiny little flaws, and they take away very little from what turns out to be a striking DW tale, far removed from the cozy little tea time fantasy of previous seasons.